just absolutely gives it everything. Scotty Morris into the lead. It's another great takes up the running. It's got 42 horses hooked up in the wall over there. They can't seem to quite get him over. They're doing everything they can. Starts off, charges into the outside of number 98 over there. Oh, there comes the Stratford car round the outside, and number 21, Lionel there. Well, he gets back on dirty. Williams just playing a little cat and wild. White flag, and back goes onto his last lap now. So Greg Johnson, in fact, gets the white flag. Down there, and 14 characters, Kerry, Podjursky. He's the man you're going to have to watch, that guy. Well, he matches up and running the long run. Hold him up a little bit longer here. He's going to try and push his way around the outside. He's right up to the job, isn't he? Here he is. He's making himself on there, doing a great job. Brendan Rollins comes through to lead the race now. Brendan Rollins makes up the running. Red flags come out again.
Well, this is McCourt on the outside, and Podjursky comes in underneath him. Kerry Podjursky rides him up into the wall. Now he climbs up a little bit further, right up to the top and over. Kerry Podjursky has just rolled Neil McCourt.
We're here with Kerry Podjursky. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us at Smack Talk here today, driver of the famous 56V. And thanks for coming along, and why don't you tell us, by starting off, a bit about your early days?
Oh, geez, I started AP5 Valiant, street stock. Well, they were B-grade saloons back then, you weren't meant to hit, but it never really sort of worked out. Been involved with Speedway. My dad helped build the track out here. As a kid, always went to Palmerston, every Saturday night, so sort of grew up from, sneaking in the back seat of the car under the blankets as you did in the old days to get in for free. So it's just sort of gone on from there. So yeah, started with the Valiant and then the first old 2-ton tank. So.
Nice one. Yeah, so you progressed into the stock car class.
Yeah.
The 2-ton tank, who'd you purchase that from?
Bob Smith. He traded it off old man Hammond. Was the ex-Robert James tank. Yeah, probably not a good car to be your first car. It was certainly a handful, and weight didn't really matter back then, but it was, I think on a good day it was about 1600 kgs. Great for teams racing, but when you got a legal car it was like, geez, these hits hurt a bit more.
Nice. So leading into teams racing, what made you want a teams race and put your hand up for the Warriors?
Well, I sort of can't really remember how it started. My first teams race I wasn't actually in the team, and one of the cars broke down in Wanganui against the Panthers, and coming down the pits and threw me in, and that was my first attempt at teams racing. I think I tipped over Barry Lane in the first teams race, so it was like, actually quite enjoyed it. I thought, oh, this isn't actually not too bad, but I still remember they were trying to do the seatbelts up for the first one, so a little bit calmer now.
Yeah, the beginning of all the good things that came along from there. Those early days in the Warriors, I guess you would have had the likes of Jimmy Baxter and Kerry and maybe Mike Johnson and a few of those boys. Enjoyable times back then?
Yeah, everyone got on really well. You sort of travelled away as a group, sort of stayed together, all got a motel at the same space, place, and no, it was good. Yeah, lots of late night drinking and stuff that you're a bit more responsible now and don't sort of do as much, but lots of good times.
So you started to look to invest a bit more time and money into Speedway, get a bit more serious. You picked up Tank 4 off Dave Evans. I believe you invested all your costs into getting that tank at the time, and it ended up sitting in your shed for a couple of seasons. So what was the story there?
Yeah, I bought it and could just afford to buy the rolling chassis. Set it away, couldn't afford to put a V8 in it, so we just done up an old EA Falcon. I actually shifted, we moved overseas, lived in Norfolk Island, worked over there for a year, so everything just went into storage, and when we come back I sort of got it going, and it actually turned out to be quite successful with the old 6-cylinder.
Yeah, interesting to note, you got second in the Manawatu Champs one of those years, and also fifth in the North Island Champs, so you got a bit of power to the ground.
Yeah, it was used to give some of those V8s a hurry up in the day, so and it was nothing flash. It had a stock standard bottom end with just a Brian Hartley cylinder head that he'd done, and shit, it just ultra reliable and never stopped.
Nice one. So you had some teams racing with the Warriors to see out Jimmy Baxter's career. You guys had the matching tanks. Had a bit of fun back in those days?
Yes, it was great. There was meant to be 3. Trevor Bailey also had one. He didn't sort of do much racing, but same thing, was sort of budget restricted, a lot of where you went and how much racing you done, but all the teams races we'd done, we had a ball.
Nice.
Jimmy was always entertaining when you're away. It was more about the social side than the racing, really.
Even so now, hey?
Yeah, I got more calmer now.
You came to Palmerston North in 1997. What was the decision behind that? Was it because there was a decline in cars in Wanganui, or was it contracting to get some better teams racing, or what's the story?
Yeah, just to improve you've got to have cars, and sort of back then there was 3 or 4 super stocks in Wanganui. You'd go down to Palmerston and it'd be like, holy hell, there'd be 20 or 30 cars and you were miles away, so it was really just to improve my racing by racing with numbers, and it certainly helped. Got to have lots of traffic.
And I suppose Palmerston North were in a stage where they were rebuilding. They'd lost the Evans and the Parks over the years and hadn't really had much success at Teams Champs in those few seasons, so you added a bit of strength there.
Yeah, no, it was good. I actually really enjoyed it. You know, it was when Scotty was promoter. Yeah, it was good times. Never managed to get that number one with the Panthers, but sort of learned quite a few tricks from the Englands.
Interesting to note too, your cousin Barry contracted to Palmerston North in that same season, didn't he?
Yes.
97.
Yeah, I sort of don't know why. I think there was a bit of there was niggling going on in Stratford as it was back then. But
good as. Now that 1997 Teams Champs, that was a bit of a famous Teams Champs for the Panthers, so to speak. Scotty's got disqualified for a, I guess you call it half a grass cut at that time. It was pretty minor, but he got disqualified for the second night of that. You guys had to really band together yourself, Paul Demanza, Murray West and Bevan Clark. You were coming up against the Red Hot Rebels. Pulled out one of the big races of your career. Do you remember anything about that?
not too much from back then. You always tip a few over. I think we got Rodney Wood. It's sort of just at the right moment, but
Got Westbury up there.
yeah, it was good. I think we went to that one with 3 cars. It might have been the final. We went with 3 cars, but
Bevan ended up breaking his wrist in that forced a 3-car final.
Yeah.
So I guess it's probably hard to remember, but how do you sort of band together? There's only 3 of you guys going into that final versus the Stratford Gladiators, who were in top form that weekend. You, Murray West and Paul Demanza, how do you prepare for a 3 versus 4 car final?
yeah, it's really hard. Like, even sort of back then, there was no real game plan. You know, our plan was always just get out and crash them. You know, try and wreck them. You know, give them flat tyres, tip them over. But unfortunately, that night they done that to us. So it's always hard with short number of cars.
You decided to carry on the legacy. You went on to build tank number 6. From what I believe, you built that next to was a tank number 4, your tank. This was the first tank of the new millennium. So what changes did you incorporate into your first tank as opposed to Dave Evans' tanks?
Very few, really. It was just got all the trailing arms and shock absorbers and springs onto the outside of the tub, whereas on that first one that I bought, it was all inboard and made it quite wobbly, and just a little bit of suspension. The chassis was pretty much identical. We just changed a little bit in the front, but pretty much the same as it was.
Did you ever have a chance to catch up with Dave and go through a few things?
No, really only at the tank reunion when it was on display. We just sort of went over a few bits and pieces, and when I bought it, he'd always said that was the main problem, that the cores are on the inside of the tub, which made it quite unstable. So changing it made a hell of a difference between the 2 cars.
Nice one. So who chose the paint job for that first tank that you built? Looked like someone threw a bag of Skittles at it.
That was great, yeah. I was working at a paint shop at the time, so it was like, what's the brightest we can go? And it was all fancy house of colour and body and stuff, but it looked quite hideous, to be fair, so that's why it only lasted a season and then went back to the old red and black.
The old trustee. So you actually came back to teams race with the Panthers in that 2001 season. I don't believe Wanganui had any super stocks at that time, maybe one. But you got the chance to teams race with cousin Barry. Pretty cool racing with family.
Yeah, it was good. He's first cousin, and you sort of learn a lot. You know, I was still relatively new back then.
Yep, and he's always famous for going around the outside, mate. No time to think about it, just straight around the outside.
Yeah, that was probably the one thing that we tried to drum into him. Don't go around the outside. You know, it was him and Wayne Hemming was always good for that.
Yeah.
Real easy to tip over.
Nice, I like it. So the return of the Wanganui Warriors in 2004. Now that was quite a big deal. That was the first time since 1998 that Wanganui had fronted a team. What was the driving force to get you guys going again? I know Guildford might have been there, Rick Campbell, Watkins and yourself. Was it really a priority for you guys to re-establish yourselves?
Yeah, I think they just wanted to get the Warriors back on the map. As usual, we sort of struggle with cars, getting enough. That's why we had Rick, was a ring-in, but he was actually a Wanganui born and bred, so he was a Wanganui for most of his life. So yeah, it's just getting the numbers, and we struggle every year.
That was quite a cool meeting for you guys. It's a week before there was the massive February floods in the Manawatu there, and it was horrendous conditions all weekend, but you guys really banded together and ended up coming fourth. How did you feel about that?
Yeah, it was good. We didn't actually think we were going to get there because the Wanganui Bridge was closed on the day, and it never opened until quite sort of late, so I don't think I finished the car until probably not even an hour before the meeting. It was quite handy with Scott being the promoter. I believe that some of the teams races were changed around. I turned up straight to the track, car off the trailer, overalls on and out to the first race. I'd only been fired and driven on the trailer that night, so I was always only going to be reserve, but I think one of our cars broke down in the warm-up lap, so it was sort of straight into it, and she was not too bad.
You ended up playing a big part
Yeah.
of the team in that weekend. It was awesome to see for us fans, that's for sure. So the rebuilding of the Wanganui Warriors, you guys became one of the real heavy-hitting teams and title contenders. It all sort of started out as a bit of a surprise. Dion Mooney in the Morris Doyle car drove 2 races of his life to get you guys into those first semi-finals, I think. A lot of commitment from the boys there with the likes of yourself, Mooney, Guildford and Taylor. You guys just laid it all out on the line those few years.
Yeah, we've always had the approach of just get out and smash them up. Like, we've never had fast cars, so you were never going to be able to race them, so you had to take them out. So probably why all the Wanganui teams races are really quite brutal. And that's probably really our only strategy. You just give them flat tyres, tip them over. You've got to wreck them because you're never going to be able to race Palmerston or any of those good teams. You can never match them for speed. So.
That's right. I remember some tough teams getting disposed. There was the likes of good Rebels teams, even a good Christchurch team one year, and the likes of Hawke's Bay teams as well that had big names. You guys really just, like you say, smash them to bits.
Yeah, but there's never, I suppose, any real race plan or strategy. It's quite, we'll have our meetings in the bus, and what are you going to do? Oh, I don't know, where do you want to go? We'll just, you go here, and there's no plan. So I suppose we do quite well for, we just go out there and crash into them,
Nice one.
And, yeah.
That's what us fans love, mate. Makes us go raucous. 2008, that was a massive year. This could almost be considered what was one of the pinnacle moments of your whole career. You certainly drove the hell out of yourself and your car that weekend. Let's start out with Stu Smith Jr. now. That's a famous memory in time now. So what do you remember about that?
I probably had Scotty to thank for that, because they'd said to him, just go around the outside and keep your foot down, no matter what, keep your foot down. So he probably made me look good because he just kept his foot down, and it was like, I suppose we got to the end of the grandstand straight, and I'm thinking, geez, the old girl's not going to be able to keep up, but he's actually starting to pull away. But yeah, just foot hard up it, and I think at that stage I'd actually leased the car back off Cunningham for that meeting. So yeah, I think Stu just made me look good by keeping his foot down. Most people would have slowed down, but yeah, certainly looks spectacular.
No, it certainly did. Made for one hell of a great photo. Graham, who's got a good one there? The semi-final that weekend was against Hawke's Bay. That was another vicious race. Do you remember what was going on with you and Steve O'Dwyer in that race? You ended up driving up the side of him and putting your bum through his window, and then ended up cleaning him out.
Yeah, I saw the video the other day. He just come down the inside, and I just turned into him and then braked, and I saw him sort of go up and sort of half on the side and just keep your foot in it. And you'll sussle shit, I'm going through the window, you'll
Yeah.
back off, you would have seen on the video, you sort of stop and straight back into reverse and you know, back off and get going again.
He ended up wiping him out down that straight. I believe that was one of the hardest hits of his whole career.
Yeah, sort of gets a little bit vague after a while.
Let's talk about unfortunately that a lot of damage in that semi-final and really cost you guys in the final against the Panthers. But a good show of sportsmanship and camaraderie with Scotty Myers ended up pushing you over the line in that final. You and Scotty good mates?
Yeah, I get on really good with Scotty. He's probably a promoter's dream, teams racing. Not quite so much now, but I used to say to him, why do you do that? Like, you wreck your car every time. You wreck your car. Looks great, but he's sort of calmed down now, and he's actually uses the old head and realises that to win you've got to finish. But yeah, no, we get on really good.
Nice one. Let's talk about heading to motorsport for a moment, and also developing this current tank. It's owned by Steve. You guys have a real good relationship.
Yeah, he decided, quite a few years ago that Kyle would step up from mini stocks to supers. Go straight into supers. So he owned the old car as well. So that was sold, and we started developing this. I thought I'll try something different with the engines. Sort of on paper, the old Jag looked pretty good, so took a while. We had a few engine issues, not with the current engine builder, but who had initially done it. We had some issues, and then went to where we are now. Unfortunately, you're developing something that no one's ever done before, so it was relatively expensive, and there's been a few issues. It's actually a very, very good engine, puts out really good numbers, but...
I remember you saying from the last time we chat that 2013 season it had dropped a cylinder and you were still on the pace, and you guys had no idea that it was underpowered at the time.
Yeah, it was always... We'd pretty much sussed out it was only going on 7 cylinders. We've still got ongoing issues with ignition, which I'm pretty confident we'll have sorted this year. So mechanically the engine's extremely good, so it's just been lots of little niggly bits and pieces, but hoping this year she'll have quite a bit more pace. So.
Let's fast forward to the last 2 teams champs you did before you hung up the helmet, as far as teams racing is concerned. 2014 versus the Busters, and also 2015 versus the Panthers, while you didn't race in that final. Is there a little bit of heartbreak that you couldn't bag the big one, 4 finals, no title?
Yeah, I would rather have a teams racing title than an individual title. Well, it's just something I've always been passionate about with teams racing. Like, it's such a buzz, and you're working with other team members to get the results, and we've certainly been close, but I'd say equipment's always let us down, like unreliable cars, like a lot of the time the cars will fail, they don't get smashed, they just break. Whereas you get Palmerston, Hawke's Bay this year, all top cars, like all top quality cars, they keep going, and that's the thing. To win, you got to finish.
The 2015 final in particular was one of the greatest finals I've ever seen. Bevan Humphrey, unfortunately, with the faulty gauge, was it?
Yes, it turned out it was nothing wrong with the oil pressure. It was the faulty fancy gauge that said he had no oil pressure, so he stopped, which you would do with the $80,000 engine. But yeah, just bad luck.
Dion Mooney had your tank in that. What happened to you that meeting?
Sort of had a little bit of a temporary sleep, maybe. Yeah, rookie mistake, pull out in front of a car that's going 100 miles an hour, which is not the brightest thing to do, but I was a little bit sore. Was going to race, but as you get older you think, shit, I'm probably not 100%, so I gave Dion the opportunity to either race this or stay in the car that he was in, and he jumped at the opportunity to a go on this, and I certainly shows how much potential he's got in a reliable car.
He said he did the practice laps and he come to the gate, he thought something was wrong, but he
I
come for a chat.
said to him, oh, do a few laps and do your warm-ups and pull up the pit gate if there's any problems. I can change a bit of weight around or something. And he pulled up and oh God, what's wrong with it? And he just lifted up his visor and went, it's awesome. And then away he went. So and he drove really well in the first
Drove the
one.
tits off that car, yeah.
And
only on 3 wheels too.
yeah, so just shows with you get reliable cars. Wanganui would be a real force to be reckoned with.
Definitely. So rebuilding the Warriors from here, they were a little bit unlucky this year. Still had a good team, drivers that were prepared to lay it on the line. It was just a little bit unfortunate in a few of those races.
Yeah, I think again it's just sort of a little bit of reliability issues. I've always said to win a teams race you've got to finish. You've got to keep your tyres up and you've got to finish. You can't finish it if you're upside down. So.
Was it a hard decision for you to give up teams racing?
Yeah, I probably haven't been 100% happy with the car, with the performance, and I struggled with the teams racing with it to what I was used to, with good throttle response and just doing what I wanted to do. So towards the end of this year, I think we really got on top of it, and I think going forward, start of this season, it's actually going to be back how it should be, and so it's taken quite a while to figure out what the problem's been with it. But,
nice. So you've got a couple of weeks off work so you can actually
spend time
with the car, hit the ground running.
2 weeks off work. It only took 3.5 days to get it to this stage. I think after that last teams race it took me 3.5 months, so this is the plus side of not teams racing. It's 3.5 days work and it looks like new again.
So you did the South Island Champs this year. Now, how did that come to be?
Probably mainly with Kyle, because Kyle lives in Nelson, so we thought I will do the South Islands, and he still likes to be involved and go down there, and he can sort of help out, and he's still pretty keen to help and do stuff on the car. So into that, he still owns it. So. Nice
one. So the Bars and Jake Baker went as well. Is that anything to do with you going along, or?
No, I think they just hadn't done the North Island, so decided to do the South Islands, and it's a really good track down there. Everyone gets on really well.
Yep. So you've
really
spent I guess a few meetings in the South Island. You did a few Easter Champs and that kind of thing in Nelson. Swap seats with Craig Voot.
Yeah, years ago we'd done some teams racing down there and left the cars down and went back for the Easter Champs, and he rolled me, which was Scotty Myers' fault because he missed him on the corner before. And then we swapped over, and for the next race, and I drove his 1NZ car, and it was like hopping out of a 6-cylinder Falcon into a machine like that. It was like, holy hell. Could not believe how fast that car could go. Back in the day it was that much better than everything else, and it was certainly a buzz. Didn't handle as good as the old tank, but went twice as fast.
Nice. Just going back a bit here, you'd watch Kyle come along. He certainly turned into a demon teams racer. He swayed a couple of teams races in favour of the Warriors with some big moves. What was it like watching him come of age?
Yeah, he was a little bit nervous his first teams race in Palmerston, but he was amazing. Like, to be fair, I never ever thought that he would be that good at teams racing. I thought he'd struggle with it, but I had to sort of eat my words. He was, just naturally good. Like, I really didn't give him any coaching. I think he just watched, really good at looking and watching, other cars and what they were doing, watching other competitors, and he just sort of picked it up. But he was certainly going to be a star in the future.
Yeah, it was certainly a meteoric rise, and sadly the fall came after that as well. He took a few bangs at teams champs, and I believe he went out racing the next week in Wanganui where he picked up his injury. How did that affect the likes of the Edna family and also yourself, close family? What was the impact like?
Very hard, and obviously hard for Steve, his dad, and his mum. But yeah, it's been a long road to get to where he is. So he's doing pretty bloody well to be where he is now. Just shows you, that with the sport you need to be sort of certainly looking at a lot more of these safety issues and getting on top of that. I don't think there's been enough done around seats and that sort of stuff. It's sort of a lot of it's personal preference, but sort of I've been doing it 25 years, I suppose, and just about all teams racing. And personally, I firmly believe that you've got to have a good seat, and it's got to have padding. Simple as that. There's no way that I could race at my age in, I'll use an example, as a race tech type seat, not a shit show.
Yeah, I know Bruce Arling's exactly the same. He's basically got a lazy boy in his car and he just swears by it.
Yep. If I'd had one of those thin padded seats when I got my big one last Teams Champs, I think I would have been quite seriously injured. Hey, I might have gone to sleep for a couple of sets, but I went to work on Monday, a little bit sore, but I certainly couldn't do it at my age with a normal seat like most people use.
So where to from here, Kerry?
Well, the car's for sale, and Kyle's other one, I've just got to do a little bit of tidying up on that, so they're both for sale. Steve's been really good. Without him, there's no way I could do it. He owns the car. He's allowed me to continue, which with Kyle getting injured, I quite expected that it would have all just been sold up, but he's quite happy for me to race it this year. It'll be for sale probably after Teams Champs, after New Zealand's, but it'll be for sale.
It's going to be tough going at Palmerston North for the New Zealand champs. Everybody's going to have to be on their A game, being such a fast track. So you're wanting to really give it your all, and if it is the final of Kerry Podjursky, you want to try and go out in that top 26.
Yeah, well, towards the end of last season, we've sort of started to get a little bit more aggressive again in the passing manoeuvres, I suppose, and I think that's going to have to happen at New Zealand. You're not going to be able to hesitate. You'll have to use that, see how it goes.
That's what we want to see. You've had a few individual achievements along the way as well, plenty of podiums. You've won the Noel Kensington Memorial back in 2013. You've had the Craig Hebner Memorial 2015-16. You bagged the big West Coast Superstocks this year against some furious competition, and I believe Natai was there, and the likes of young Mitch Vickery and a few drivers like that. The George Podjursky though, is that the one you want to bag?
Yeah, I always want to get that, and it's always been second or third, so give that a good crack this year.
That West Coast Champs this year, the tank was on song. There was a bit of niggle out there between the drivers, but you were on your game that day.
Yeah, as I say, we're getting on top of it. Performance-wise, it gets slower as the race goes on, but we've sort of sussed out why that's happening. So, only problem if it goes faster, I won't be able to drive it properly. But
nice. Just a couple more here for you, KP. Tips for aspiring blockers. You're one of the best in the game. You've been great at reading the race over year, car positioning, things like that. What tips do you have for reading a race and being that block man?
Just got to look out the window, look around, see what's going on, and don't just roll around aimlessly. Like, a little bit hard now because they've sort of changed the rules a bit, but I'd stop at the end of the start, finish straight, put the car on an angle so I could see around the track, like, you've only got 10 laps or 12 laps in a team's race. If you're going around flat stick, they're only going to pass you once or twice, so if you actually stop, let them catch up, but you also got to make sure you get up to speed. Like, I've noticed a lot of them just far too slow in their blocking, and then they whiz past. So,
and I think that comes back to teams racing awareness. Now you're only going to not only smash your car up if you take one in the back, but you're really putting your life at risk, so to speak.
Yeah, I suppose blocking's quite an art. and I don't think a lot of people possess it. Like it's easy to wind someone off the end if you've got a fast car, but I suppose I had to learn to block because I never had a fast car, so you couldn't actually catch anyone as such, so you had to slow them down to your speed. But yeah, look out, see what's going on, just try and suss out who's going fast, and protect your wheels. That's, you can't win a race or block if you've got a flat right front tyre or flat left rear tyre, it's protect your car. And as I say, my old mate Scotty would go out there and crank someone off the end and, look spectacular, and then his car would be wrecked, like I said, them putting bits of roll cage on and stuff like that. It's like, just, drive sensibly, like, tip them over, and then they're back out in the next race, and you've got no damage, as such, a bit of paintwork. Protect your car.
Nice one. Couple of quick fire ones here for you, Kerry. What's your favourite track around the country?
Actually quite like Nelson. It was my bogey track because every time I went there I was upside down. I'd only ever been rolled twice and they were both in Nelson. But I really enjoyed the South Island Champs down there. Car was going pretty good around there, so that and Palmerston's always good.
Nice one. Do you remember your favourite team's race? Or one that stands out in your mind?
No, they're all pretty memorable.
Just getting those cars on their lids, mate?
Yeah.
Favourite racing moment? You got one of those?
No, every team's race pretty much.
Yep, same again. Nice one. Who are your most respected rivals out there on the track?
Oh, again, probably just about all of them. Malcolm Nartai, he's interesting. Malcolm, he's great. He just wobbles around. He doesn't care who he upsets. But you have a beer with him afterwards, and he's sort of a bit like me, I suppose. He just does it for the fun. He's not too serious about it all. So competitors like that are actually good to race with.
Yep.
Really quite enjoy it.
Nice one. Say if you're picking a team, who's your right hand man? Who would you take into a team's race before anybody else?
Ooh, it's a hard one.
That's awkward.
Yeah, it's a hard one. Yeah, no, can't. Difficult one. They're all pretty good. There's some good ones and there's some terrible ones.
Do you remember the hardest hit you've ever given?
I never actually gave many real super hard hits. It was always squash up the wall and tip them over. Probably Campbell McManaway when I had the Emerson Leach
That's a big one.
tank, when it was sort of me and Steve Guilford involved. I think Campbell went to the hospital, but I sort of got him but went him backwards as well, so it was sort of a double blow, but that's probably the one that hurt the most.
Oh, nice one, Kerry. I certainly appreciate you taking the time to have a chat with us today and share some experiences with all your fans out there, and certainly looking forward to this coming season.
Yeah, I am too. It should be good, and we'll be there first opening night, hopefully in 25 years. So.
Nice one, buddy.
Very good.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you. So pretty much these are all fabricated, so apart from these bits of box section, it's all fabricated. So all these are folded, it's all made out of Domex 700 grade high tensile steel. So we make all the boxes. All this stuff here is a 2mm product called Hardox, just try and keep the weight down. So pretty much all the front bumpers are fabricated channels welded together. There's 3 channels welded together. Does make them reasonably strong, but also obviously a nightmare to repair if you do happen to bend one. But in 25 years we've only bent one front bumper, and that was when I had my little sleep. So all this stuff's all fabricated, that's not bought stuff, that's all folded. Side rails are just all 3mm, same thing, high tensile Domex. We cut the holes and then got a tool for forming the circles and putting a lip on it just to give it a bit of strength. And obviously the diff's just Speedway Engineering quick change with a aluminium axle with all the fancy brakes and floaters, and it's got no shocks on it at the moment, but so ready to go back together. Same thing, all the backs just folded, bumpers are just folded channels welded together. And you get round to the expensive part, which is a 4 litre Jaguar engine that's cost an absolute fortune, and hopefully these are the things that have been giving us the problem for the last 2.5 years. So we've got some fancy ones coming from America that are a direct replacement, but hopefully it's going to give it a bit of performance. So first meeting is going to tell if they turn up in time. And really that's about it.